They handed my newborn son to the one woman who despised me, my mother-in-law. She held him before I ever could. Something broke inside me in that moment, and I don't know if it will ever fully heal. I woke up with tears already on my cheeks, my arms aching for weight they'd never held, my body trembling, not from the anesthesia, but from the sense that something had gone horribly wrong. My womb was empty. My soul felt hollow. And when I opened my eyes, the only sound in the room was the soft beeping of machines. No crying baby. No husband. No nurse. No one. Just a chilling emptiness that screamed louder than any newborn could. I pressed the call button with trembling fingers. Once. Twice. Then slammed it like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. When the nurse finally entered, too calm for a maternity ward, I croaked, "Where's my baby?" She smiled stiffly. "Your mother-in-law took him. She said you asked her to care for him while you rested." My heart stopped. My skin went cold. My mother-in-law? That woman had barely tolerated me throughout my pregnancy. And now she had my baby? "No," I whispered. "No, I didn't tell her anything. I was still under. I didn't sign anything. I haven't even seen my baby." I tried to sit up, but pain ripped through my stomach. The C-section stitches screamed, but not louder than the panic in my chest. I looked around wildly, as if my son might appear from under a blanket or behind a curtain. But he was gone. And something was deeply, deeply wrong. Let me back up and tell you who I am. I'm Naomi, and up until that morning I thought I was just a new mom recovering from a complicated delivery. I thought I had a loving husband, a second chance at building a family after losing both of my parents young, and the start of a new chapter. But I had no idea I'd married into a family of vipers. I never could have imagined that the birth of my son would be the trigger for a betrayal so brutal. It would unravel everything I thought was real. Greg walked in 10 minutes later, not with our baby but with excuses. When I demanded to know where our child was, he gave me that same rehearsed line. "You told Mom she could take him. You were too drugged to remember, babe." No warmth. No comfort. Just cold dismissal, like I was a nuisance getting in the way of their plan. They were trying to gaslight me out of my own motherhood. I knew in my gut they were lying. But I was stuck in that hospital bed, stitched, drugged, powerless. And they knew that. But what they didn't know, what they never saw coming, was that someone else had been paying attention. A nurse named Clara. She saw the red flags. The irregularities. The lack of authorization. The smug, controlling behavior from my mother-in-law. The way Greg avoided looking at me when I screamed for my child. So Clara did something no one else dared to do. She hit record. And that single silent act would end up being the key to unraveling everything they tried to steal from me. But back in that moment I had no idea. All I knew was that my baby was gone. And if I didn't fight for him, fight through the pain, the fear, the lies, I might never see him again. What I didn't realize then was just how deep their betrayal went. Or that Greg's sudden death just weeks later wasn't an accident at all. It was part of a twisted, calculated plan. And karma was already on its way. I barely slept that night. My body refused to heal because my heart was still bleeding. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined my newborn crying in the arms of a woman who had once told me, "You're not fit to raise a stray dog, let alone my grandchild." And now she had him. I tried to get out of bed, yanking out IVs and monitors like a wild animal trapped in a cage. Nurses rushed in trying to soothe me, restrain me, sedate me. But I wouldn't let them. I couldn't let them. I needed to find my baby. And then Clara slipped into my room. It was late, around 2 a.m., and the hallway was quiet except for the distant rolling of a medical cart. She glanced over her shoulder, shut the door behind her, and came close to my bed. "Naomi," she whispered, eyes scanning the room. "I need to show you something. But not here." She slipped a small note into my hand, folded tight. "Storage room B, 5 a.m. Come alone." Before I could ask questions, she was gone. That was the longest 3 hours of my life. At 4:57 a.m., I gritted my teeth and forced myself to stand, clutching the wall and shuffling like a ghost through the silent corridors. Every step shot pain through my abdomen, but I didn't care. My baby needed me. Truth needed me. The door to storage room B creaked open like something out of a horror film. Inside, under the soft yellow glow of a maintenance bulb, Clara waited, holding a tablet in her trembling hands. "I wasn't supposed to," she said, "but I recorded it. The moment your mother-in-law took the baby. I knew something wasn't right. I've seen custody disputes, but this was different." He played the video. It was grainy but clear enough. There was my husband standing beside his mother at the nursery door. "She gave me verbal consent," his mother told the nurse on duty. "She's resting. I'll take the baby. We're family." "She needs to sign the discharge papers," the nurse protested. But Greg pulled out a folder. "These are legal arrangements. Prenatal agreements. It's all there. The baby goes with her. It's temporary." I saw how he avoided eye contact. How his mother smiled too sweetly. How the nurse, confused and outnumbered, reluctantly handed over my son. It was a heist. A calculated, rehearsed heist. I collapsed into the supply cart, hand over my mouth, shaking. "They planned it. They planned this." Clara nodded. "I already sent the footage to hospital administration. And CPS. The footage was damning. But I wasn't safe yet. I still didn't have my baby." When I returned to my room, Greg was waiting. "You need to calm down," he said, sitting like nothing had happened. "You're making this harder than it has to be. The baby is safe with my mother." I stared at him. "Safe from what?" "From me." Greg leaned forward, voice suddenly ice cold. "There are things you don't understand, Naomi. My family protects what's theirs. That child? He's our heir. Not your weapon." My mouth went dry. "He's not a weapon. He's my son." Greg stood up. "You're weak. Emotional. But my mother's already spoken to lawyers. If you push this, you'll lose." But I didn't reply. Because for the first time I realized something. Greg wasn't doing this because he thought he was right. He was doing it because he was scared of what I didn't know. Few days later, he was found dead on the sidewalk. I was still in the hospital, recovering slowly from the C-section incision and the separation from my newborn son when I got the news of Greg's sudden death. At the funeral, his mother sobbed like a widow. His siblings sat in front like royalty, dressed in black silk and crocodile tears. They said things like, "He was taken too soon, and we'll protect what's left of him." But every word felt like a dagger to the gut. As I knew the truth now. Greg didn't just die. He was silenced. They said it was a heart attack. That he collapsed while jogging in the neighborhood park, only a week after the baby was born. But Greg was 32. He worked out every day. No heart conditions. No history of anything. The night before he died, he called me. "I can't keep covering for them," he had said, voice cracking through my voicemail. "I messed up, Naomi. I thought I could control it. I thought they'd back off if I gave them the baby. But now they want more. And I left something in the office safe. In case anything happens to me." I didn't get that voicemail until 2 days after his funeral. Because someone deleted it from my phone. Thankfully, it had synced to my cloud. That's when I knew I wasn't paranoid. I was being hunted. And so was the truth. That evening, I took an Uber to Greg's old office downtown. The building was locked. But Clara, my quiet warrior of a nurse, had a cousin in maintenance who let me in after hours. We pried open the safe behind the bookshelf. Inside there were documents. Dozens of them. Greg had rewritten his will a month before the baby arrived. And guess what? Everything was left to our son. Not to his mother. Not to his siblings. Not even to me. He had created a trust that only I could manage until our child turned 18. He knew they were greedy. He knew they were coming for his fortune. He even left a note. "Naomi, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I never thought they'd go this far, but I underestimated them, and overestimated myself. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. But I'm trusting you to protect our son now. I made sure they can't touch the trust. It's sealed, legally binding, and notarized in 3 states. Don't let them win." "Greg." I dropped to the floor, clutching the note like it was the last thread holding my world together. The man who betrayed me also tried to save me. He handed over our child to his mother thinking it would buy peace. But when they demanded more, when he refused to rewrite the trust, they turned on him. Greg died less than 24 hours after telling his mother he'd change the documents over his dead body. And that's exactly what they did. I took the documents to a lawyer the next morning. A good one. The kind who handled celebrity estates and political scandals. He looked at Greg's trust, read the attached affidavit and sat back slowly. "This is airtight," he said. "And damning." I nodded. Now I need to prove his death wasn't natural. He narrowed his eyes. "Do you want justice or revenge?" "Both," I said without hesitation. I used to be the quiet one. The invisible wife. The orphan with no pedigree. The girl Greg's mother told everyone was a distraction, not a legacy. But now I had power, real power. Greg's documents weren't just legal proof. They were weapons. The next morning I sat in my lawyer's office with a folder full of evidence, and a strategy laid out like a war plan. Step 1. Freeze the estate. Step 2. Petition for emergency custody. Step 3. Exhume Greg's body for an independent autopsy. The moment the judge reviewed the trust and saw that Greg's family had filed fraudulent paperwork claiming they were managing the estate, the hammer came down. An injunction was issued. Bank accounts were frozen. Assets, cars, properties, stocks, were locked pending full investigation. Greg's mother was furious. She showed up at my apartment banging on the door, screaming like a woman possessed. "You think you can steal my son's money? His legacy? That trust is fake. You forged it." I opened the door calmly. "No, Linda. I didn't forge anything. But I will prove what you did." I played Greg's voicemail, loudly so she heard every word. Her face drained of color. Her mouth hung open. "You don't know who you're messing with," she hissed. "No," I replied. "You don't." That night I received another anonymous message. This time a nurse from the hospital where I gave birth. She said she saw something she couldn't ignore. My baby being carried out not by a nurse, but by Greg's sister, dressed in scrubs she had no right to wear. "I didn't know who to trust," the nurse whispered over the phone. "But I recorded it. In case something happened to me." When I got that footage I cried until my ribs ached. There was my son, barely hours old, taken while I was still under anesthesia. Greg's sister smiling like she was taking home a prize. And she wasn't alone. Linda was in the hallway giving directions. I handed that footage to my lawyer. He handed it to the press. The story exploded. Millionaire's wife drugged during delivery. Baby stolen by in-laws. Dead husband left secret will. TV crews camped outside my apartment. A local reporter offered me a platform to speak. At first I hesitated. I didn't want my son's story to be public. But then I saw Linda on TV claiming I was mentally unstable and the trust was fake. That was the final straw. I went live. I told everything. From the cold way they treated me from day one, to Greg's confession voicemail, to the surveillance footage of my baby being stolen from the hospital. The world listened. And it didn't take long for justice to follow. The court granted me emergency custody and full guardianship of my son's trust. The state launched a criminal investigation into Greg's death. And when the independent autopsy revealed traces of a rare toxin, one found in untraceable herbal compounds often used in ritual poisonings, it wasn't just shocking. It was damning. Police raided Linda's mansion. They found handwritten notes about removing obstacles and securing legacy through maternal control. They also found Greg's phone wiped clean, hidden in a lockbox. His final text messages were gone, but I had the voicemail. Linda, her daughter, and Greg's older brother were all arrested for conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction. Greg's sister faced kidnapping charges for her role in taking my son. The courtroom was ice cold the day I testified. I held my son in my arms and for the first time in months, I felt powerful. Not because I had wealth but because I had truth. I had survived. And now they couldn't rewrite my story. The judge looked at me after the verdict and said something I'll never forget. Sometimes justice moves slow. But it always arrives. Linda and her accomplices were sentenced. The family empire Greg built now belonged to the one person they tried to erase, his son. And as for me, I became the legal guardian of every cent they tried to steal. The courtroom was quiet when I walked out with my son in my arms. Cameras flashed. Reporters yelled questions. But I didn't stop. Not until we got into the waiting car and shut the door behind us. For a moment the world fell still. I looked down at my baby, my beautiful boy with Greg's dimpled chin, and whispered, "Daddy made sure you'd be safe. And so will I." But victory doesn't come without pain. Greg was gone. His laugh. His warmth. His protection. The only man who had ever chosen me over everyone else. Gone, and I'd never even had the chance to say goodbye. I thought I was prepared for grief. I wasn't. There were nights I woke up gasping, thinking I heard his voice. There were moments I held our son and broke down sobbing because he'd never get to know his father. Only the war I fought to protect his memory. I started therapy. I needed to. Trauma like this doesn't fade just because the headlines move on. And it wasn't just about Greg. It was about all of it. The years of being treated like less than. The gaslighting. The manipulation. The silence that nearly buried me. But healing began, slowly. And with healing came purpose. Greg had planned a foundation in his will. One meant to support mothers like me. Women married into powerful families erased by wealth and name. He wanted the Naomi Wells Foundation to be a legacy of protection. Now I had the power to bring it to life. With the estate firmly in my control, I worked with lawyers, accountants, and nonprofit experts to build the foundation from the ground up. Every dollar his family tried to steal was redirected to help women break free from cycles of abuse and financial manipulation. The irony? Linda's family name was now on scholarships for women she would have crossed the street to avoid. The justice system worked, but I knew one last thing needed to be done. I had to legally sever all ties between my son and Greg's family. The criminal convictions were strong, but they didn't erase bloodlines. His name was still attached to people who'd tried to kill his father and steal him at birth. So I filed to strip their visitation rights. Permanently. It wasn't easy. They fought back, especially from prison. Claimed I was alienating the child. That Greg's mother deserved access as the paternal grandmother. But the footage from the hospital, the forged documents, the poison in Greg's system, it told a different story. The judge ruled in my favor. My son would never have to call those people family. That night, I took Greg's old record player and played the vinyl he always used to put on when he was nervous. An old jazz album from his college days. I held our son and danced slowly around the living room, the lights low, the air warm, and whispered, "They tried to erase me. Then they tried to steal you. But we're still here. And they're not." That's the kind of ending I never thought I'd get. Not because it was happy, but because it was whole. Every thread tied off. Every lie exposed. Every betrayal answered with truth. Karma didn't just knock. She moved in and stayed. Years passed. And each year my son grew to look more and more like Greg. Same smile. Same bright, curious eyes. Same quiet thoughtfulness that made you feel safe without a single word. He was 5 when he asked me, "Mommy, why don't I have a grandma like the other kids?" I froze. How do you explain betrayal to a child who still believes in superheroes? So I knelt down and told him the truth. Our truth, softened but not hidden. "Daddy loved you more than anything in the world," I began. "But some people in his family made very bad choices. Ones that hurt people. Ones we couldn't let near you. So I made sure you'd always be safe. And one day when you're big enough to understand, I'll tell you everything." He nodded, solemn. Then hugged me like he somehow knew the weight I'd carried just to keep that moment possible. I spent years learning to trust again. Not just people but myself. I enrolled in law school. This law school. After what I'd endured, the forged documents, the hospital cover-up, the court battles, I realized something powerful. I knew how to fight. And I wanted to help women like me fight too. In my first year I met a woman named Riley. She sat in the back of every class, always quiet, always taking notes. One day we spoke after class and she told me her story. Her in-laws had tried to kidnap her child too. But she hadn't had proof. They'd won custody. She'd lost everything. I cried in the parking lot that night. But it lit a fire in me. I founded a legal advocacy program through the Naomi Wells Foundation. Free legal services for mothers in crisis, especially those married into wealthy, manipulative families who thought money could rewrite the law. And it worked. We won our first major case 6 months later. A mother got her child back. Another in-law sentenced for perjury. Another hospital held accountable. I could feel Greg with me in every win. By now, Linda and her accomplices were deep into their sentences. The full truth about their crimes had unraveled through federal investigations. Greg's brother had been laundering money for years. The heart attack was no accident. It was a slow poisoning masked by fake supplements Linda had insisted he take for his stress. But Greg had outsmarted them. His living will, his safe deposit box, even his personal physician who testified about their last call, it all pointed back to what he feared. And what he died trying to protect. They tried to break me. They tried to erase me. But all they did was hand me the blueprint for how to destroy their legacy and build something better in its place. The last time I visited Greg's grave, I brought our son. He was 10 then. He laid flowers just like I taught him and stood quietly. Then he said, "Thank you for protecting us, Dad. Mommy's strong, but I know you helped too." And just like that, I knew I'd done what I came to do. I didn't just survive. I reclaimed my voice, my power, my life. No. I tell my story not for pity but for purpose. Because somewhere out there, another woman is walking into a nightmare just like I did, and she deserves to know she's not alone. She deserves to know that no matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how powerful the enemy, karma never misses. And justice comes to those who refuse to be erased. So if you felt every twist in this story, if you screamed, cried, and held your breath, do me one favor. Like, comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow's episode, let's just say, you're not ready for what she does next. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.